The 1950s, the US was once again at war, and this time on Korean soil. Over the course of the war, hundreds of American soldiers were taken as prisoners. These soldiers were trained to give up nothing except for the rank, name, and serial number. However, the Chinese adopted a deadly policy to get them to collaborate, the lenient policy. Without even harming a hair on the back of the soldier, they could get almost every single prisoner of war to collaborate with them in one form or the other. This behavior is in striking contrast to how the American soldiers behaved in World War II a few years prior. The Chinese did not use any weapon of physical harm. They used a weapon of influence. Discussed in the book Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert B. Cialdini. Let me read to you how the Chinese got the Americans to collaborate. So, the Chinese answer to get the American prisoners to collaborate was simple: start small and then build. The Americans were asked to make statements so inconsequential, such as the US is not perfect, or in a communist country, unemployment is not a problem. But once these minor requests were complied with, the men found themselves pushed to submit to related, yet more substantive requests. A man who had just agreed with his Chinese interrogator that the US is not perfect might then be asked to indicate some of the ways in which he thought this was the case. Once he had so explained himself, he might be asked to make a list of these problems and then to sign his name on that list. Later, he might be asked to read this list out loud to other prisoners in a discussion group. Still later, he might be asked to write an essay expanding on the list and discussing the problems in greater detail. The Chinese might then use his name and his essay in anti-American radio broadcast, beamed not only to the entire camp but to other POW camps in North Korea as well as to American forces in South Korea. Suddenly he would find himself a collaborator, having given aid to his enemy. Aware that he had written this essay without any strong threats of coercion, many times a man would change his image of himself to be consistent with this new collaborator label, often resulting in even more extensive acts of collaboration. Thus, only a few men were able to avoid the act of collaboration altogether. Almost every single American prisoner of war collaborated with the enemy in one form or another. Our best tool to judge a person's character, beliefs, values, etc. are not by his words, they can easily be manipulated, but by his actions. And what the Chinese have discovered is that not only do others use your past behavior as a proxy for your character, you do it yourself too. You use your past actions to determine what your values, beliefs, attitudes, and personality are. So, if you do a particular action, you might adopt the self image of the kind of person that does that action, and then you are more likely to commit that action again in the future. This goes hand in hand with the idea of James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, where there's a beautiful quote. It goes, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every action you take influences your self-image, and your actions in the future are influenced to a great degree by your self-image. For example, a few women in some street, I don't remember, were considered charitable by others, or they were told so by the people like experimenters. I don't know if that's the correct word, but yeah. And what they found is that when the women were told that they were seen to be charitable, they donated much more to charity. And another thing was, the experimenters again, they got a few people to sign a petition for social beautification, And later, when they were asked if the public safety guys could keep a huge sign on their front yard saying drive carefully or drive slowly or something. It was that would ruin the entire view of the house. And but as they had signed that petition earlier for societal beautification or something, they saw themselves as public spirited individuals who acted in a manner beneficial to the public. So they were way more inclined to agree with that ridiculous request to put that humongous sign on the front yard that would ruin their entire house's image. But they agreed to do so because of the self image, where they signed a petition, not for any driving safety thing, but for an entirely different cause. But the thing it had in common was that it was for a public benefit. See the applications of this. In this book, he is concerned with the applications of this in marketing, which is amazing. But I am more interested in the self improvement aspect of this, and let's talk about that. So, if you've been in this self improvement space for long, then you might know that half of the industry is concerned with law of attraction and visualization and shouting quotes in the mirror. What they're trying to do is to change their actions by changing the self image, but I think they got it the opposite. What you must do is to change your actions so that your self image updates, which will then make it more likely for you to take those actions again. I started reading the book Influence to learn sales, but it's really given me deep insight into how the human mind operates and how we can use the strategies of influence to influence ourselves to becoming better versions of ourselves. So self-image, that's the key component of this video, to be honest. Hamza made a video recently as well on self-image. The self-image is probably the easiest way to skyrocket your growth. And apart from taking actions, another tactic the Chinese used to get compliance from the American prisoners was through writing. And this has been my personal experience. Journaling is probably the most powerful self-improvement habit outside of exercise that I have found. Journaling every day, in and out, will change your life. This is one of my journals. So is this. So is this. And so are all of these. I started journaling 2 years ago, and these are the stacks of books I have used as a journal ever since then. And every single journal I turn through, I am a different person. And these journals themselves had a huge component to play in my growth. Okay, so start small and build big. That's the moral of the story. How do we use that to improve our lives? If you know Jordan Peterson, then you might know that when asked on how to improve our lives, the advice he gives first is to clean your room. This modern day wise old philosopher, when asked on how to improve our lives, the advice he gives is to clean your room. Seems so inconsequential, right? Just like how those statements seemed inconsequential. But they're not. Once you clean your room, you adopt the self-image of the person who keeps his life organized and takes responsibility for the things around him. And once you have a organized room, then you are also more likely to have an organized work life, and then you're also more likely to take responsibility over other facets of your life. You are also more likely to take responsibility over where you are in a financial standpoint and a relationship standpoint and in a mental and spiritual standpoint. And once you have all those facets figured out, then you are probably living a happy life. And the journey to sort them all out begins with adopting responsibility over wherever you are in that particular aspect of your life, and to adopt responsibility in one arena of life also translates to other arenas. That's what we have learned. Self-image is the one thing common between all these facets of life, and when you take action in one area, you change your self-image, which helps you change your actions throughout all the other aspects of your life as well. And that's how we get into the positive feedback loop of our actions changing our self-image, which again makes us more likely to take those positive actions. It's beautiful, right? Once you start taking positive actions, your life doesn't look like this, it looks like whoosh. And but that also applies for the negatives. Once you start lying to yourself or start going down the wrong path, the journey down doesn't look like this, it looks whoosh. Yeah, right. So start small, build big, and clean your room. We went from Americans and Chinese in Korea fighting a war to Jordan Peterson telling you to clean our room. If you're interested in more content like this, then consider subscribing. And with that, I'll see you at the top. Bye.